Hey there! So, I'm here to talk about another blog contest prize that I won. I mean, it always comes back to that. I enter a lot of blog contests, I win a lot of blog contest prizes, and one of the recent ones that I won, I guess it wasn't that recent, it was a few weeks ago, but I entered a contest on the blog of a friend of mine named Larissa Hardesty, who's someone who is, in a similar position to me on the journey towards publication, writing and revising and seeking representation, seeking publication, and all that sort of stuff. She ran a contest, and I entered, and I won a copy of this book, Gone, by Michael Grant, which is a book that I have heard great things about, and I've been looking forward to it, so it was a very pleasant surprise to win it and get it for free. And so I got it, and I was looking at it, and it was actually making me think about a conversation that I had with another friend of mine who is, I don't know if you could call him an aspiring writer. He's a self-pubbed writer. He wrote a novel, a fantasy novel that was pubbed, and he said something about, he was writing adult fantasy, and he mentioned something to me about the idea of perhaps writing a children's novel, because now that he has children of his own and work is occupying so much more of his time, that it might be a little easier to write a children's book because it would be shorter. And you can imagine my internal response to that anyway. I didn't want to get into a brawl or anything on the site. It wasn't worth that, but it was a little irritating because what does that have to do with it? Picture book is incredibly short. Writing a poem, writing a haiku, incredibly short. The length really doesn't have any bearing on how hard it is, and there are some ways in which I actually think, well, something really short actually could be harder to do. And I thought of that conversation again when I got this book in the mail from Larissa. Thank you, Larissa. By the way, you should check out the link to her blog, which actually, I'm getting all confused. I think this is being posted on her blog right now. She invited me to do a guest post on her blog, and here I am remembering that in the middle of recording the guest post. So you're already at her blog. So I'll link to it from my blog as well. But I was looking at this book, and I thought, wow, 550 plus pages. Big book, Obviously, writing for kids doesn't mean you're writing a shorter book. Doesn't always mean that. Although, in my case it does, because I am writing middle grade fiction. My book, as it stands right now, unrepresented, unpublished, and whatnot, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 215, 220 pages. But then, who's to say that there is some sort of defined minimum number of pages for adult fiction? There isn't, right? There isn't, actually. Yeah, no weight to the argument that writing a children's book is easier because it's shorter, right? I know you agree with me. And the other way in which, the other line of thought that this spurred this book Gone is, obviously, if you know his work, Michael Grant's big name, The Phase is his name on Twitter, and hugely successful series. And I remember seeing something that he posted either on his blog or in a comment on someone else's blog about what it means to be a writer of series fiction, like books where there's a very specific sort of way of working. If you're going to have to crank out a number of pages, and that this series that you're writing is going to be X number of books, and you have this very sort of tight schedule, and you have to be able to hammer out, however many words, 2,000 to 5,000 words a day or something to that effect, which boggles my mind to write that many words a day. I'm not able to do it. I actually think it's a pretty good day when I can hammer out 200 words. But I also know that, my book, I'm not saying that my book is a series. It's not. My first manuscript is a standalone book. It stands alone. It is completely self-contained with the potential to be expanded to a series. But, other writers are often very interested in writing a series right off the bat. And I understand that very well, despite the nature of my book, which is a standalone, self-contained novel that doesn't need to be followed by any other novels at all, even though it could be, is that, I think this first manuscript that I've written, it was just like so fun to dive into this world and explore it a little bit, I think there's probably this impulse to well, I want to keep exploring it. I don't know everything about these characters yet. I don't know everything about this world yet. There's still so much potential, Maybe that's the idea with we writers who want to jump in with a series, is just the idea of potential. And I sometimes wonder if it's not so much a positive reflection, because part of the writing process is clearly all about making choices and making decisions and you got to close some doors, right? If you're going to make creative choices, it means picking something, and picking something means you're not picking all the other things you could be picking at that time. And so I don't know, is the impulse to write series fiction an idea, or an impulse to put off some of that decision making, put off some of the choices that you have to make? Maybe you can kill fewer darlings that way, or maybe instead of having to kill all the darlings, you can put some of them in the deep freeze and pull them out for book 2. I don't know, maybe so. But anyway, thank you, Larissa. I'm looking forward to reading this book, and it probably, despite the 500 plus page nature of it, I'm sure I'm going to whip through it pretty quickly, and looking forward to reading the rest of it. And again, for you editors and agents who might be watching this, my book stands alone. It's not part of a series, not at all. That is all.